Alright, so we're going to do some graphing today. Of exponential functions. Okay, and so how does a function will look like that, where the a and the b are just numbers. So the different problems will have numbers for a and b. Okay, so how does a graph look? Well, we have some that start off really flat like that, and then they go up. And so when a graph looks like this, excuse me, the b number will be greater than 1, and the a number will be positive. Okay, and so it could also start off flat and go down. And again, this is b is greater than 1, but a is negative. The book says a is greater than 0 or a is less than 0. Okay, but I think that's easy enough to remember. Okay, it could also, if we go back to this first one, it's going to be flat and then it's going to go up. So it's never going to get below the x-axis there. Go backwards. Where it starts like this and then goes up. So this is where b is a fraction. Now it says between 0 and 1. So technically you could have like 5 over 2 is a fraction, but it's not between 0 and 1. Okay, so b is a fraction, and then a is positive because it goes up. And then we could have kind of the opposite of that, where it starts flat and it goes down. So again, b is a fraction, and a is negative. Again, it's between 0 and 1, the fraction. Okay, so it's not like super important that you like memorize this, but it can be really helpful. You know, can you graph one without memorizing all this? Absolutely. But it can help, like, if, you know, hey, did I do this right? Does my answer make sense? It'll also help on the first 4 problems. Excuse me. There's a matching. And so it lists 4 equations and it has 4 graphs. And if you can apply these different things, you'll know which one is which without having to actually graph. You can say, oh, like the a is positive, so the graph has to go up. Oh, the b is a fraction, so it's going to be like this top one that you're looking at right now. You know, and you could apply, you know, and so on and so on and so on. Okay. Okay. So then the rest of your assignment, you're going to graph, and there's 6 of them. Okay, and so basically just going to pick numbers and plug in, kind of like we did yesterday. when we did the evaluation part of the assignment. Okay, so the book chooses 5 numbers. I think we're good to just pick 3 numbers and go from there. Okay, so let's see. If we had, so remember these are functions, so you could have f of x instead of y. But let's see if we had 4, 2, and x. Okay, and then so I want to pick 0 is always a good one to pick. 1 and 2. And so sometimes it kind of, the numbers kind of depend honestly on you knowing how the graph looks. So I do kind of go back to, well, maybe it is a little bit more important to memorize that stuff, because right here, okay, the A is positive, so that means the graph's going to go up, and the B, which is 2, means the graph's going to go up to the right. If it was a fraction, it would go up to the left. So going up to the right, I want to pick numbers to the right of 0, which would be 1 or 2. If it was going to go up to the left, I'd want to pick negative numbers. So I'll do one like that in a minute. Okay, so let's plug in 0. So anything to the 0 power is 1. 4 times 1 is 4. Okay, and then let's plug in 1. Oops, not 1 there, 1 for the x. So 2 to the first power is 2, and 4 times 2 is 8. So when I plugged in 1, I got 8. And then let's plug in 2. So 2 to the second power is 4, and 4 times 4 is 16. So we don't really want to pick like anything other than 0, 1, and 2. Because if you pick 3, then you're doing to the third power, and the numbers get like really big. So as it is, 16 is pretty big. All right, so if we go to graph it, we'd have 0, 4, and we'd have 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and we'd have 2, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 is like the 16. Okay, and then we want to, understand what the graph looks like. That one. So we can just start to draw like out here, and then, I'm going to go up like that. Okay. All right, so, it is a little bit of work, but, I don't think it's impossible to do. All right. All right, so let's look at another one. All right, so let's do one with a fraction. Okay, so with the b, or the inside the parentheses part being a fraction, that means it's going to go to the left, and then it's going to go up. Okay, so when it's going to go to the left, I really do need to pick negative numbers. And you might think like, oh great, we got to do these negatives, but actually something nice is going to happen. Okay, so if I put in 0. Anything to the 0 power is 1, so that's nice. Okay. Excuse me. So then when I plug in -1, well, when we have a negative exponent, that means we're supposed to flip over and make the exponent positive. So when we flip it over, we end up with, that's just 2. And 2 to the first power is just 2, or 4. And then when I put -2, same thing. I need to flip it over, and the exponent becomes positive. So that's 2 to the second power, which is 4, or 8. So yeah, it's a fraction, and you might think, oh shoot, I got to pick negative numbers. That's not going to end very well. Well, it's actually a lot nicer than it appears. Okay, so with both of them, with the A being positive, it's going to go up. So I can kind of draw the graph a little bit more slanted like that. But so 0, 2, and then -1, 4, and -2, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, and then remember that it's going to kind of be flat like over here, and then it's going to go up. Okay. All right, so not a whole lot like changes. So let's do like, let me see if I can do another one. Okay, so first on your assignment, I'm going to do a problem to show you what happens. Instead of 2, I'm going to put -2. If you compare like those, you get 2, 4, and 8. Another example in just a second. Actually, let me do that one first. I'm just going to do this. So the negative number in the front means the graph's going to go down. And the fact that it's a fraction in the parentheses means it's going to go to the left. So I would still, just like the last one, pick negative numbers. So always pick 0 though. 0 is super easy to do because remember the x is going to be in the exponent, and anything to the 0 power is 1. So just now we get -2. Okay, so excuse me. -2, 1/2, and then -1. So we do the same thing. It just means flip it over. -2 times 2 is -4. And one more time. Flip it over. Make the exponent positive. 2 to the second power is 4. And we get -8. So really, that negative sign in the front, over here you get -2, -4, -8. You get the same numbers, just negative. So I'll draw my graph kind of skewed like that a little bit. 0, -2. 1, -4. -2. -8. And then the graph gets flat and it never crosses it. Okay, on all of these, the graph will never cross the x-axis. Okay, so just be aware of that. All right, so there we did like 3 out of the 4 different like possibilities of like the graphs. But on your assignment, you're going to have a 0.5. Make sure you write that as a half. Okay, and then you're going to have a 0.25. That's like money. It's like a quarter, 25 cents. So that's 1/4. And then you'll have another one that's 1/3. And then the other ones will be whole numbers. So you'll have 3 of them with whole numbers and 3 of them with fractions. But remember, the fractions just mean pick a negative number so that when you plug it in, you get to flip it over. And instead of 1/2, you'll have 2. Instead of 1/4, you'll have 4. And it'll be much simpler. Okay, so there is like a couple that have some larger numbers. Like one of them has a 7, one of them has an 8. So 8 to the second power is 64. So you're going to have a couple problems where you're going to have a little bit bigger number. To the first power, 8 to the first power is 8. So that's simple. Okay, so now make sure you pay attention to this. You're only graphing for numbers 25 through 30. So your problems are 21 through 30, so it's 10 problems, but for the first 4 are just matching. And then on 25 through 30, the directions say graph the function, and then it says compare the graph to the graph of the parent function, describe the domain and the range. Like, you're not doing any of that, just graph. We're going to talk about the other stuff tomorrow. Okay, so only graph 25 through 30. Now, we're going to use the graphs from 25 through 30 for tomorrow's assignment. So important that you get these done. And then if you're not sure, check your answers on the website, the school website. And that way you'll be ready to go for the lesson tomorrow as well. Okay? All right. Make sure you're asking questions after the Zoom calls. All right. Have a great day. See you tomorrow.